Have you ever found yourself walking away from a conversation feeling heavy, confused, almost like a little piece of your soul was chipped away, but you just couldn't explain why? Or maybe you've had someone in your life who seemed kind, giving, even loving, but over time you began to lose your peace, your confidence, your clarity, maybe even your identity. Carl Jung, the legendary Swiss psychiatrist who carved the modern roadmap of analytical psychology, warned us that evil doesn't always come wearing a mask. Sometimes it comes wearing a smile, and sometimes it doesn't even know it's evil. The most dangerous people, he said, are not the ones with bad intentions, but the ones who refuse to look in the mirror of their own souls. This isn't about paranoia. This is about protection, about survival, about knowing when someone in your life is eroding you, not elevating you, about digging deep, right into your intuition, the internal alarm system that too many of us have been taught to silence. Carl Jung believed that the psyche is a universe of hidden forces, light and darkness, ego and shadow, persona and soul. And the people around us, they can either nourish the light or awaken the darkness. Some people will make you doubt your sanity while telling you they love you. Some will manipulate you not with threats but with sympathy. Others may not even know they're dangerous. They just leave devastation wherever they go. Jung said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." So what happens when the people closest to us are completely unconscious? What happens when they've refused to confront their own darkness, and instead they feed off yours? What if the damage they do isn't always loud and violent, but subtle, slow, corrosive? Today we uncovered the 6 psychological profiles, 6 personalities, 6 dangerous archetypes who can derail your emotional, spiritual, and even physical well-being. Some may be obvious. Others are heartbreakingly deceiving. You may have loved some of them. You may have been one of them in the past. What matters is understanding the cost of staying connected to people who exist in emotional shadows, and the priceless freedom that comes when you finally walk away. The first kind of dangerous person Jung warned about is the one who projects their shadow. They are deeply uncomfortable with their own flaws, insecurities, jealousy, rage, and emotional pain. So instead of confronting or healing it, they do something far worse. They project that darkness outward onto you. These people live in denial of their own unconscious wounds. Everything they can't accept in themselves, they pin on somebody else. If they feel envious, they'll accuse you of showing off. If they're manipulative, they'll claim that you're controlling. They pick out the traits they hate most about themselves and convince you that they belong to you. And the worst part? It's often so subtle. They gaslight you. They make you apologize. They twist reality until up feels like down, good feels shameful, and you begin to lose confidence in your own perception. You find yourself walking on eggshells, explaining your intentions over and over, second-guessing your every move. You begin to internalize their shadow as if it's your own. You stop shining. You stop standing strong. You start shrinking. These people don't just wound you emotionally. They break down your identity, piece by fearful piece. To survive such a person is to reclaim your mind, your self-trust, and your ability to draw a hard boundary. Because they're not interested in truth. They're only interested in escape from themselves. The second type is deceptively charming, socially acceptable, and often even admired. This is the persona-obsessed individual. To Carl Jung, the persona was the social mask a person wears to present themselves in a way that society will approve of. The real danger begins when someone becomes attached to that mask. It defines them. They do not have a solid inner self, only a performance. These are the influencers who appear perfect but are emotionally vacant. The martyrs, always sacrificing, asking nothing of others, but carrying hidden bitterness like a ticking bomb. The polished professionals who can command a room but cannot look you in the eye when the surface breaks. Their entire being is presentation, and behind it, often a deep chasm of disconnection, shame, and fear. Try to connect and you'll find nothing solid, just recycled lines, conditional emotions, hollow comfort. When you show vulnerability, it makes them uncomfortable, even angry, because it threatens the persona they're clinging to. If you try to go deeper, they change the subject. But here's where the danger creeps in, because at first it feels safe to be around them. Nice, refined, controlled. You'll probably even look up to them. But over time, your soul begins starving. You'll realize these people cannot love you deeply because they have no connection to their authentic self. You bond with their mask, not their heart. And if you're a deep person, this dynamic will leave you feeling emptied, disoriented, like you're screaming into a canyon and hearing nothing back. You start questioning whether you're too sensitive. You're not. You're just dealing with someone who's terrified to take the mask off, even in love. Next, we meet the psychic vampire. You may not even see them coming. They aren't flashy. They don't always intend harm. But they will drain you, slowly, consistently, deeply. We've all met this person. Maybe it's the friend who always has a problem, always. And somehow every conversation becomes about them. They pull your attention, your empathy, your energy, until you're completely exhausted and they feel so satisfied. Or maybe it's that quiet person who constantly plays the victim. They speak in sighs, in emotional hints, forcing you to pry and care and overextend. They never ask directly, but their presence demands your emotional service. Sometimes the psychic vampire is flamboyant, dramatic, confrontational, always angry, always fighting imaginary villains, and you're swept up in their chaos. But sometimes they're soft, tragic, even sweet. In both cases, the result is the same. You get tired, and your fatigue isn't physical, it's spiritual. This happens because these individuals are emotionally undeveloped. Their survival depends on others regulating their emotions. They often suffered in childhood. They feel abandoned by the world. The problem is they haven't healed. They've just learned how to survive by draining others. And when you start setting boundaries, they weaponize guilt. You hear things like, "I thought you cared about me," or, "I guess you're just lucky you don't have to deal with this." Never-ending leaks of energy, leaks of guilt, leaks of compassion, until you're depleted, and they just bounce to the next source. Jung taught that the unconscious mind seeks balance, and when a person refuses to heal, their mind will reach out for anything, anyone to relieve their pressure. That much emotional desperation becomes predatory, and it will take everything from you if you're not awake to it. Now imagine someone who rescues you, emotionally, financially, psychologically, someone who steps in like a hero at your lowest moment. Maybe they take care of you during a breakup, help you through your depression, hold you when no one else was there, and for a while you cherish them. But slowly, you begin to grow. You find your voice again. Maybe you don't need them the same way anymore. Suddenly, their kindness curdles into control. They say things like, "After everything I've done for you," or, "Do you even appreciate me?" They start criticizing your choices, undermining your confidence. Isn't that ironic? The one who saved you now resents your healing. This, Jung would point out, is the manipulative savior. They didn't step in for love. They stepped in for control disguised as compassion. That control only works as long as you're broken, dependent. The moment you rise, their identity starts to unravel. Because your strength threatens their love narrative. The more independent you become, the less useful they feel. And instead of celebrating your healing, they sabotage it. They need to feel like the most important figure in your life. That their worth is based not on who they are, but what they've done for you. This is where guilt becomes their tool and obligation becomes your chain. These individuals aren't always aware of their manipulation. But healing around them is like walking through mud. They want you just whole enough to function, but broken enough to stay. And that's not love. That's emotional colonization. And the longer you stay, the more you begin to confuse rescuing for intimacy. You forget that real intimacy honors freedom, not dependency. Then there is a type that has devastated families, broken nations, and hijacked entire generations. It's not flashy. It's not loud or dramatic, but it is insidiously powerful. The moral fanatic. These people don't think, they believe. Deeply, absolutely. They believe their perspective is the only version of truth. They believe their righteousness justifies everything. And here's the kicker. They don't even realize how dangerous they are. Jung warned intensely of this personality because it leads directly to cruelty disguised as virtue. A moral fanatic isn't just someone with strong values. That's admirable. The fanatic is someone who believes those values make them superior, someone who thinks they have the right to decide who's worthy, who's pure, who belongs. These people speak in absolutes. They can't handle complexity. They can't say maybe or both. Everything is either sacred or evil, and the moment you challenge them, you become the enemy. You don't disagree with moral fanatics. You get demonized, canceled, exiled. Jung believed this archetype was at the heart of mass manipulation, because when people are certain, without empathy, they'll commit terrible acts while thinking they're heroes. Parents can become moral fanatics. So can teachers, lovers, preachers. They use doctrine instead of dialogue. And when you express another truth, they don't listen. They punish. No curiosity, no softness. Only war. Be careful with these people. They will make you doubt your humanity just to maintain their sense of order. And their justice will always have a blade. Lastly, and most painfully, comes the one who never meant to hurt you, but did, over and over again. This is the unconscious destroyer. These people are not villains, but they're dangerous nonetheless. They love you, but only from their unhealed places. They show up, they try, but their actions don't match their intentions. Maybe they lie, then cry when they get caught. Maybe they cheat, then say they were confused. Maybe they neglect your needs, invalidate your feelings, and yet insist, I'm trying my best. And in their world, maybe they are. But effort doesn't equal safety. Intent doesn't equal healing. And trauma is not an excuse to damage someone else. These people truly hate hurting you, but they keep doing it. They hate seeing your tears, but they keep causing them. They cannot hold emotional complexity. They collapse under pressure. They avoid accountability like fire. And because they're sometimes kind, sometimes sweet, you keep convincing yourself they're doing their best. Maybe tomorrow it will be different. But it's not. It never is. The damage piles up. And with every transgression, every emotional bruise, your self-worth gets smaller. They don't shatter you with violence, but with slow, confusing sorrow. Their chaos becomes your caretaker role. And suddenly you're sacrificing peace just to keep the connection alive. Jung would say these people live entirely ruled by their unconscious mind, meaning they are victims of their own emotional storms, and you become lightning's unfortunate target. So what do you do about these people? Carl Jung didn't share these archetypes to turn you into a skeptic. He shared them because awareness is the beginning of freedom. You don't protect yourself by being harsh or cold. You protect yourself by being awake. You choose boundaries. You honor your gut. When something doesn't feel right, it's not. When someone keeps hurting you while claiming to care, they don't. When you feel spiritually drained, muted, controlled, or erased, you leave, because continuing to love someone who's destroying you isn't compassion, it's self-abandonment. You've been taught to feel guilty for protecting yourself. That ends today. We all carry shadows. We all wear masks. We've all projected our pain or overstepped a boundary in moments of immaturity. The difference: conscious people grow. Dangerous people resist. The ones you need to avoid are not those who've been broken, but those who refuse to become whole. And now you see clearly. Let this message reach someone who needs it. Share this with someone still entangled. Drop a comment if you've lived this, escaped it, or are still healing. You're not alone. You're not crazy. And your peace is not too much to ask for. Thank you for watching. And if your soul stirred, don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay with us for more psychological awakenings founded in the timeless genius of Carl Jung. You owe no one your destruction. Choose peace, choose truth, and protect your light. Because the world doesn't just wound through violence, it wounds through silence, performance, and shadow. But the moment you see it is the moment you begin to reclaim yourself. So now tell me, are you ready to stop surviving other people's damage and start protecting your own peace? If you've made it this far, I want to know who truly understood the message. Leave the phrase "clarity is protection" in the comments, and let's see who's ready to walk away from unconscious chaos with conscious strength. If this video made something click, if it helped you name the unspoken or remember your worth, like and subscribe, because this is only the beginning of your healing. I'll see you in the next video. And remember, you don't exist to carry the weight of someone else's shadow. You're here to shine, with eyes open, boundaries strong, and your soul intact.